What's up, guys? Today I am going to be going over my first defense with barricades in it. I actually spent quite a bit of time building this defense and getting all the things working kind of the way I wanted them. It still needs a little bit of tweaking, and you'll see why when I start to jump into some replays. But for right now, I'm just going to go over the castle. So basically I just wanted to put my mine somewhere, so I put this linear hallway here. I wanted the least space as possible for kiting, but really if you do kite it all the way back, it's going to be a pretty easy time to kite things back into this room. But after you get past this group, it's pretty far until you get into the next group and then the next group. It's not really worth quite kiting all the mobs backwards because you're going to take a lot of trap damage. So that's at least the hope here. So let's jump into what's going on in each pull. I don't know, each like group and how I have it set up and why I have it set up that way. So first of all, this being volleyed, I'm actually not sure if you can volley this standing like right at the edge of this spike trap. You probably can. Most likely you'll take 5 ballista hits plus a spike trap tick unless you're not spanning, unless the open panel is coming around right at that exact time when you're about to volley across here, or whatever you do to kite this group outwards. So it can be kited. You'll take a little bit of damage, maybe have to use a potion if you kite it, and really that's what I'm going for. If you have to use one potion for each one of my groups, it probably will be impossible to get through the boss room. So that's at least the hope there. So let's say that you don't kite it and it works the way it's supposed to. So basically you either get launched at this first one, or you like roll into it, you get launched at the second or something like that. Either way, you're going to get pushed to around this area here. You're going to get enough stun immunity built up that the springboards are going to stop pushing you and you're going to land right around here. What's supposed to happen is that this archer here will throw bear traps right at the edge of this springboard trap, so that if you turn around and try to escape, you'll get hit by the bear trap from the smelly archer, take about 600 damage, and you'll be stunned momentarily. During that momentarily stun, this hunger bot is going to hit you with his punch drunk ability, which is going to snare you and slow you down. At the same time, these two smelly warriors are going to be just kind of coming up towards you and start to ready their swing. So at that point, at least the hope is that the dampener will also be turning around, and about the time when you get out of the stun and you get snared and all of that, you're going to get silenced. What I did notice is some of the replays of this dampener is just a little bit too slow, and some people are getting their, like archers are going to use their roll to get through into this area, and then they're going to use their second ability, the, what's it called? Spiral shot, that's it. They're going to use their spiral shot, and they're going to pretty much blow up all the barricades around them and stun everything, and that's where this group starts to fail, is if they do get off that spiral shot, it doesn't work nearly as well. So the tweak I'm probably going to try to make is just moving this dampener, rotating him, see if I can get it working out so that you can't get that spiral shot off until after the silence wears off. Hopefully after that point you've taken both shots from the smelly warriors, there's some bear traps around, and hopefully people are trying to run. When I designed this room, I expected people to get in here, see this, and try to get back out. And so that's the whole point of the smelly archer throwing down the bear traps behind them and all of that sort of thing. When they actually go in and try to fight inside of this room, was not expecting that at all, and it actually tends to be one of probably the least effective room that I've built just because of that. I need to work on the room and make sure that it works when they try to go forward, because that first stun from the smelly archer is actually pretty critical. You need that little bit of a stun effect to be able to hit with the hunger bot, and then the two smelly warriors to come up and deal with that. And then the extra smelly archers are just, if they survive that and they try to move around inside of the room, they're going to be bear traps around at the same time. And also they'll hit with their basic attacks after they throw down the bear traps. So it does work. It has the potential to kill someone if they do exactly as I said. They get thrown in here and they backtrack and they try to get away from this room. The thing that might need to be changed is maybe Defendatron in here, so that if they fight inside of the room, it's a little bit harder. Or maybe another smelly warrior or two instead of the archers, because they stand up better in a straight up fight. If they try to just straight up like try to fight inside of the room, they'll survive a little bit longer. They'll be able to survive a volley and stuff like that, whereas archers, the smelly archers, will fail. All in all, the room is probably the least effective out of the ones that I built, but it still does okay. It still uses potions a good majority of the time, and it probably just needs a little bit of tweaking. It's an interesting setup. You continue on, there's some barricades in there. You know, the barricades were just kind of thrown in just to reduce the amount of space and the playability inside the rooms, help out the smelly warriors and stuff like that. You continue on, Nothing too much going on. It's basically a standard spike tunnel, except for when you get up into this point here. I threw in a rotating flame trap just to help things out when they're trying to time out the spike traps, and maybe it makes them get hit once, maybe it doesn't. It really doesn't matter what you put in here, but the way that I had it set up, I couldn't really put spike traps exactly where I wanted them, like to make it a standard spike tunnel. I did it a little bit differently, basically, because once you get up to this room is where this is kind of an interesting pull, and it actually is the most effective setup, even though it took the least amount of time to put together, and it doesn't really seem like it should work as well as it does, but it actually does work quite well. I took a lot of inspiration for this setup from somebody else. I do not remember their name off the top of my head. It's been about a week and a half since I attacked them. This was before the barricade update, so obviously the barricades were kind of just placed in with my idea. I might have changed a few things around. I think the bad dog wasn't in there because that's another thing that was updated and stuff like that. But basically what happens is they come in, and a lot of people will come in and they will cut this corner off and roll into this this trap right here, or they'll go a little bit farther and roll in between them. Pretty much anything that gets you thrown, and as you get thrown, these two jelly walls will start to come down. They'll come down on top of you before you get up, and then the dampener will silence you. The Jimbo, the whole reason behind the Snotter is so that you start to be aggroed as soon as you start to touch this this springboard trap. So before the jelly walls have been aggroed, the Jimbo's aggroed. So the Jimbo's starting to travel towards you, and he's going to get right up inside of the jelly wall area before the jelly walls actually fall down, which is going to make it so that he's not scared of the jelly walls. He's already going to be inside of them. If you land close enough to him, he's going to start his swing before the jelly walls come down. The jelly walls will come down on top of you. You'll be silenced. You can't get away from the Jimbo, and you'll take a Jimbo shot along with, you know, an archer hit and stuff like that. A ballista hit, and a lot of the times people die from this. It's really good against mages. It's decently good against archers, as long as everything works out and you get silenced and they can't get off their spiral shot, which is actually a good majority of the time. This setup works quite well. It's probably the highest success rate out of all of them. So yeah, the Smelly Warrior is just there for added damage. A lot of the time he will follow the Jimbo inside and get his attack off as well. So Jimbo plus Smelly Warrior kills off a lot of people. It's about 3,000 damage, and then you have the Archer hit and the Ballista hit. Gets up to around 3,300 to 3,500. Obviously Knights won't die to it, but the other two classes, well, the other three classes should have a decent chance of dying to this pull. We continue on. It's not really anything special. I actually used this room specifically because I used it in my Fire Mine setup, and I wanted something similar in terms of the layout of the springboard traps, to throw them in the same general vicinity. I wasn't sure if this was going to work, and this, if you guys watched my previous video on Viewer Castles, I talked about a setup that I ran about 50 times. This would be it. I spent the most time trying to get this to work. It still doesn't work all the time, and it's mainly because I wanted to use Stairmasters. I wanted to use Stairmasters for the longest time because it's really hard to make use of them. I think this setup would work a lot better if archers didn't have block off of roll. The fact that they do have block, it does block a lot of the damage from Stairmasters, because their block chance is so high when they're trying to escape from this. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Let me talk about how this works. So it works the same way as this first setup. You have the springboards that throw you into around this area. The Smelly Archer throws bear traps behind the person. So as they try to escape, they get hit by the first hunger bot, which will snare them, and then the second bot, which will snare them further. I'm not sure if it actually stacks up. Mainly it was because of the damage, and the hook wasn't really doing anything because the amount of control uses resistance when you get thrown by multiple springboard traps it's too much. You know, if you get hit by all of these and you get thrown all the way, the hook is just not going to do enough. So the snare does it a little bit more and helps out. Also, the snare, unlike this setup where you want the Smelly Warriors to hit, what you're hoping for on this one is for these springboard traps to actually reset themselves. You want it so that they get... do I actually have a silencer in this one? It might be a better thing if I did have a silence instead, but basically what you want is for these springboard traps to reset, so that they keep getting thrown back into the Stairmasters. So basically they're gonna like get here, they're gonna get stunned, they're gonna start to they're also gonna get snared, they're gonna start to try to retreat. These guys are gonna be resetting, these first three, they're gonna get thrown back in again, and they're gonna be constantly getting pushed back down this tunnel with these three Stairmasters all throwing their eyeline ability out. The only problem that I really have with this is that when archers constantly are trying to roll back this way, they get so much block chance built up that when they get flung back, they don't actually take damage from the eyeline abilities all that often. That's the only time that I really have problems with this. It does work a couple of times, and you'll see it work a couple times in the replays. Obviously, these don't work exactly the way I want them to work all the time, but this is the idea that I was going for when I was building these. So it does work out, and you're also, just in this small corridor with three Stairmasters on eyeline. Like, it's a pretty strong amount of damage that's going to be coming out if you don't get out of the way. So that's what was going on. The thing you have to worry about when you're using barricades is that traps will damage them. So the reason why I use these bookshelves here is because they have highest hit points right now out of all the barricades. So I was trying to put like fire mines in here to add up the damage just a little bit, and it was just destroying the barricades. So you'll notice that when these two ballista traps actually hit the barricades, it does significant damage to them. They're probably only going to take 1 to 2 more shots from someone to actually get through. So I might want to put like another line of barricades right here just to make it a little harder to get through or something. I'm not sure what I'll do. Right now I'm full on barricades, but that's because I put this like small little area right here just to take out some of the space. I was a little worried because the next room is the boss room, and I was worried about the kiting potential in this room because it's very open and very wide. I could have switched out like this part of my castle for this part of my castle. The problem is that this one doesn't quite have enough damage to kill someone outright a lot of the time. Obviously there's so much damage coming from these Stairmasters, it's hard to gauge it properly. But if they do get stunned, they'll get hit by like the first three, or the first eyeline, the first like eyeball that comes out by each one of these Stairmasters when they get stunned and snared, most likely. That won't be quite enough to kill them. It'll be like almost all of their hit points. So if they took a little bit of damage beforehand and they're down around 2,600, 2,800 hit points, they should die from it. If they don't, then it's kind of up in the air whether or not the block chances will go off, and if these things will reset properly and constantly be pushing them down the hallway into the eyeline and stuff like that. At least that's what I was going for. I tried using Hungerbots on hook ability. I know people are going to be thinking that it would be better. I tried it a couple of times. It just wasn't pulling them far enough because they had so much stun immunity. That was really only taking them from like right here to like right here, and that wasn't enough to actually force the Stairmasters to hit. And then what was happening is they would be able to run all the way back down the hallway because they would be able to get to the end before the springboard traps were resetting. So that's why I went for the snare instead. And obviously pushing them away is the opposite of what we want them to do, of what we want to happen. And then the only thing that we have left is the boss room. And basically it's just a standard boss room with pretty much every creature that you would want inside of a boss room. It actually worked out pretty well with the amount of points that I had left. I was able to put in 2 Webmasters, 2 Zeeks, 2 Defendatrons, my support, which would be the Bone Puppeteer, and 1 Silencer. Maybe another Silencer would be nice, but it really doesn't need to happen. And then there's 1 Smelly Warrior and 1 Battering Ram to put a little bit of added pressure on if they try to fight in this small enclosed area, along with the 2 Webmasters that are there also. Obviously it's over the amount of points that are maximum, but that's kind of how people build boss rooms anyway. And there's actually enough trap pressure in this one that it seems to reduce the amount of play area that people can fight inside of. The castle has been doing better. It's probably the best castle that I've built in a little while. Probably because I put the most time into building it. There's still a few more things that I want to try out with barricades, but for the first setup I'm pretty happy with it. The kill zones work. I think every one of them has at least netted 1 kill in replays. Maybe this one has only damaged people, but it happens frequently enough. The Jimbo has been worth its weight in gold. Like, it's a very good room. And then the Stairmaster room is just fun for the most part. Like, I really want to use eyeline Stairmasters. I want to find a way to use them. It's very difficult. Because they attack so slowly. And it used to be that the only way to use them was using Hungerbots on hook, but the Hungerbot on hook actually is just so low range that it makes it so much more difficult so much more difficult to use because it's low range and it's low speed. I was actually trying to use one hunger bot on hook and have like 2 or 3. Initially, I had 3 Stairmasters in a row, one hunger bot on hook, and I was trying to just hook them into all the Stairmaster abilities after they got thrown, and it just wasn't working. The stun immunity plus the slow nature of the hook is just not enough, so I had to do it kind of like this. Obviously, there's things that could be changed, or this could be thrown into a different room. If anyone wants to emulate any of these groups, feel free and change them any way you want to. And if you think you found a way of making it work better than the way that I have it set up, feel free to either message me in game, shoot me an email, or shoot me an email for viewer castles if you want to see me run it or anything like that. Definitely open to the option, and like I'm sure that these could be built better. I spent maybe an hour to an hour and a half on each, maybe a little bit longer on this one. This one actually didn't take me hardly any time to put together because, one, I took some inspiration from someone, and two, it's a pretty simple setup. You don't have to really worry about the timing on everything. Pretty much you just have to worry about the Jimbo getting there and swinging. Whereas these things you have to worry about when they land, how much stun immunity they have, when these bear traps go down, if these guys are going to line up their attacks about the same time when they're going to be getting stunned. If this guy's hitting too early, like if he's getting stunned and then wasting some of the snare time, if this guy's silencing too early and wasting some of the silence time, if he's silencing too late and they're able to get out of the smelly warrior attacks, all these things have to go into these setups. If the ballista traps are going too early as they're getting thrown, if they're not getting hit by them, stuff like that, it's all important when you're setting up these type of rooms. Also, another thing is stun immunity and control resistance. If people have more than 10% control resistance, they pretty much get through these kill zones almost unharmed. They take a lot less damage. I set this up with 10% control resistance, and anyone who has 20 or 30%, it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. That's the only bad part about this setup, I would say. I mean, there's a lot of bad things, there's a lot of good things. Anyway, let's just jump into some replays because it's already been quite a bit of time that I've been talking. So you guys can see there's a lot of defensive ones in here, but you have to take out some of the people that have like level 19, level 17 characters who have went through and attacked my castle, because obviously they're going to lose. You have a lot of level 30s that are losing, and if you add in everything, I think I'm up 1. If you take out duplicates, I'm not really sure, because people like Kazal have attacked me multiple times and have lost and won multiple times, so it's hard for me to say it. I added them all up, and I just included duplicates, and I think I was +1 in terms of wins and losses. So, and that was like level 28s and above only. So it's an okay castle, but it's like nothing too crazy. So let's go back to the beginning, and I'm just going to kind of watch some of these replays that I've won against. And we'll just talk about them, figure out things that I might be able to change. Like I said, the first setup we'll see a lot of people fighting inside of that room, and I was not expecting that at all when I set it up. I haven't really done any tweaking since the initial build of the castle, which took me quite a bit of time. I just spent like an entire night building a castle and just trying out things that I thought would be good with barricades. A completely different setup castle could be a sustained damage castle where you just lock people into little segmented groups, and hoping that will be enough to, deal damage to make them use a potion. This is more of a kill zone type castle. That's why I did this format as well, because I didn't want people to see the setup before I had replays to go through. Because I'm sure after this video comes out, when people run my castle, it's going to be a lot easier for them. Because a lot of these are like one-shot kills. You want to trick the person into getting hit by certain things in a certain way. Alright, so let's see how this first setup does. He gets thrown in, and he's going to fight inside. And that was the issue. You can see the silence bubble comes just a little bit too late, so I need to work on that. That's one thing that's very important about this. If you copy that setup, that silencer needs to be turned one way to the left, or one way to the right, either one. Because he just barely got his spiral shot off before he got silenced. So that's a pretty big deal. Obviously, he still took a little bit of damage, but he could have taken way more if he was silenced during that. If both of those Smelly Warriors hit, he would have taken an extra 800 damage or so, which is a potion easily. So, and possibly a kill if he took a little bit more damage from anything else. And then the Jimbo just barely misses, he gets thrown a little bit too far. That happens sometimes, but it's still difficult. As you can see, he's locked into this small area, he got silenced, and he ends up getting hit by the Jimbo. So we can rack up 1 kill for this Jimbo room right there. You'll see a lot of kills from that room specifically. Alright, let's take a look at this knight. I actually don't remember this replay, it's been a while. I don't remember many knights really attacking my castle at all, so let's see how this one works. Obviously, knights with 5,000 hit points, they're not going to die to your main rooms, to your kill zones. They're just not, it's not going to happen. They're going to have a little bit of a harder time in the boss room. We'll speed this up to get them through the mine area, because they're pretty slow at killing mines. So we won't, most likely will not see them take all that much damage from this first room, but we'll see. I don't remember exactly how this works. If you can force out a potion for this room to a knight, that's actually pretty good. And you can see the Smelly Warriors are just kind of just like chopping this guy to bits. You know, he already took a good 2,000 damage from those Smelly Warriors. It does some high damage when you're in here fighting. So what I'm hoping is that against archers, if I can mitigate that spiral shot ability, it'll definitely help out quite a bit. Because the room does high damage if the creatures stay alive for a long enough time. You know, this would have killed an archer by now. He's already used 1 potion, now 2 potions, and he has 5,000 hit points. So obviously, knights have a harder time against this because bear traps are really good against knights, and even kind of so are Smelly Warriors. And then when you slow them down and reduce their mobility even more on the lowest mobility class, it just makes them take even more damage. So far that room has been a huge success actually against the knight. Probably the MVP room for this specific attack. Using 2 potions on a 5,000 hit point knight is quite good. Unless he came in with 3. I'm not actually sure. But I think he came in with 4. I'm pretty sure it was 2 potions. I wasn't paying that close of attention. But one thing here is that this rotating flame trap does hit this last barricade right here sometimes, and it destroys it. It isn't the biggest deal in the world, though. This isn't really going to do a ton of damage anyway. It's really just put in just to annoy people. I'm not actually sure why he's destroying all these barricades. I don't know if he thinks the doors lock unless he destroys them, or if he's just doing it to do it. But he took an extra 200 damage because of it, so that's fine. Alright, so continuing on, let's see what he does against this Jimbo room. Let's see if he gets hit by it or not. So he's down to 1 potion left. Obviously we can see this is a fairly long replay. I'll probably speed it up at some point. Once we get past the kill zones, I'm going to speed it up for the boss room, because that's a pretty generic fight. It's taking quite a while to get through this area. Alright, so he gets timed out. Let's see if he gets hit by the Jimbo or not. He does get thrown. Unfortunately, he hugged this wall, so the Jimbo wasn't quite far enough in for it to work properly. He didn't get far enough into the jelly wall, and then he got scared of the jelly wall and ended up running away. And it looks like, oh no, they're attacking the Raised Dead. Raised Dead is actually really good at that for like tanking damage, so he gets hit by 1 of the Jimbo swings. He's taking a good amount of damage. He's gonna have to use a potion here most likely. Yeah, he used his last potion. So obviously the Stairmaster room is probably not going to do all that much, because unless he dies and resurrects, I'm not really sure. We'll see. But since there's 3 minutes left on this replay, 3.5 minutes left, we'll see how the Stairmaster setup works against this guy. He does get thrown. Unfortunately, he didn't actually get thrown enough, because you can see how this is working, though. It's constantly pushing them back into the eyeballs, and this is even with not being stunned by the Smelly Archer. He didn't quite get thrown enough, because he started getting thrown like way back here, and he might even have some stun immunity as well, some control resistance also. And it looks like he's just going to kite these guys out. Should be fairly easy once you kite them out of that room to take care of them. Stairmasters are really hard to use on this specialization. I'm hoping that the tools are there for them to be useful. Like, they're kind of useful in this setup, but it's still not quite what I want, you know? It's not that instant kill what we used to have with Stairmasters plus Hungerbots, like it used to be. That's why I'm really hoping for a Hungerbot buff. I mean, among other things, that it would really help out those. It would help out a lot of different groups, really.
This is the best part of my day.
Alright, so he's going to basically just run around here, and eventually he's going to die because he just doesn't have enough hit points. And it looks like he resurrects until he gets through the castle. So I'll just keep it on 4x. Maybe he dies again and then he leaves. I think that is going to be the case. Those barricades down in the bottom area of the boss room, though, did actually manage to reduce his movement down in, if it loads, down in this area. It did actually reduce his movement. He ended up going back here and he got stuck on these barricades and took a little bit of extra damage, so I guess they worked out. Let's go back into some replays. Let's see, we just saw this knight get through, or end up dying. Let's see if we can find another one, maybe a mage. I'm not going to watch losses quite yet. Let's watch this guy. Pretty sure this guy, all 3 of his attacks ended up dying to the Jimbo room. Which is kind of funny, actually. Once you see it once, you wouldn't think it would work again and again and again, but it does sometimes. It only comes in with 2 potions, so it's going to be difficult to get through this castle regardless. I'm just going to speed it up until he gets through the mines. There we go. Alright, so looks like he kites across those pretty decently, but he does get stuck into a lot of that stuff. And that time, actually, the silence worked out the way I wanted it to. Still didn't do as much damage as it could have, and the silence wears off and he's able to use his AoE to kill everything. That's another reason why maybe a Defendatron would be good with that group, to keep them alive a little bit longer. In replacing... I don't know what I would replace besides the Smelly Archer, though. Like, I would have to get rid of 2 Smelly Archers and replace it with a Puppeteer and a Defendatron or something like that. And the Jimbo, again, he just gets his attack in. You can see how the Jimbo... he didn't even get thrown, he just kind of walked into the jelly wall, started walking back, got silenced, and couldn't get away from the Jimbo in time. I'll watch another one of his replays. I'm pretty sure it's against it's a death to the Jimbo again. So this is the second time that he attacks my castle. Again, 4x it until the mines get killed. Alright. Gets thrown in a little bit farther this time. Does get silenced, but unfortunately, like I said, I wasn't really expecting people to fight inside of the boss room. Or, not inside of the boss room, but inside of this room. I expected them to try to run away and kite it. So he doesn't get hit by any of the bear traps. I could also spread out the archers a little bit more to make it so that the bear traps aren't jumbled all in one place. That might help out. So this time he gets thrown, Jimbo's winding up his swing, comes right down on top of his head. That's exactly how this setup is supposed to work, exactly. Alright, we can watch Kazao. I think he dies to the boss room. I think he was low life and he ended up getting hit by something inside of the boss room, maybe a Z shot or something. So I'll 4x it again while he's getting through the mines. So again, fights inside of this room, and again, the dampener wasn't quite silencing quick enough. That's probably the biggest problem with this room. I'm going to revalidate my castle as soon as this video is over. I'm going to move that dampener, rotate him 1 square, and see if that helps things. It can't hurt for sure, so. It does take a shot from the Jimbo, one potion right there. So I would say this room was a success just because of that, even though it worked out. He ends up getting confused, which is unfortunate, having your main creature in a group being confused. Alright, let's see how this one works. So he does get... yeah, so right here, that's where what I'm talking about with archers and their block chance. Like, it's pretty tough to make that work because of that block chance. But you saw that actually worked kind of the way I wanted it to. He did get stunned, he did get snared, he rolled back on top of the on top of the springboard traps, and they reset just in time to fling them back into all the eyeballs. Unfortunately, he didn't quite do enough because he blocked two of the Stairmaster's shots, so that's, you know, 800 damage, maybe a little less, 600. Not too crazy. It probably didn't work exactly the way it needed to, but I'm not sure how much control resistance Kazal has. And yeah, you can see right there, he ends up getting out DPS by the boss room before he could use a potion. Alright, let's do like 1 or 2 more replays. We'll watch these last 2 right here. So, a mage and an archer. So yeah, the castle still needs a little bit of tweaking. I'm not sure how long I'll actually keep this up, or if I'll just rebuild and do a different one. But I wanted to give the video. I wanted to get the video out to see if anyone wants to mess around with the defense rooms that I have set up here, or any of the ideas that I'm going for. And you know, if you can make them work better, that's awesome. That's pretty much how these rooms kind of come into being anyway. People will build a room and it won't quite be finalized, and then everybody sees it and they do their own little take on it until you find like the best way of actually building a room, and then everybody starts doing that. So the stun happens. He actually does try to run, and you can see how much damage that people take when they try to run through this room. Like, it's almost a one-shot. And if that silence came a little bit quicker to maybe make one of these smelly warriors hit, or, you know, I didn't see exactly where he took the damage from, but that silence is a huge deal. You know, it can just deal so much more damage if it has that little bit of time where there's no spiral shot coming out. This guy actually doesn't have roll, which is pretty interesting, someone using spiral shot instead of roll. It's not often that you see that. Freezing shot used to be a really good ability. There's actually a couple times where archers would use different abilities instead of, you know, the standard headshot, roll, volley, spiral shot. Alright, so does the Jimbo rack up another kill here? I think he does, just based on the time right here. I think he's gonna end up racking up another kill. Exactly how it's supposed to work. You get thrown into the jelly wall, the Jimbo's already in the jelly wall, he starts to wind up, you get silenced, you can't move out of the way in time, and you die. That room just works so good. It's really good. Alright, let's check out this mage. So far, I haven't had anyone die really straight up to the Stairmaster room, which is unfortunate. I thought that there was a couple replays that I had where it was working properly. It's hard to make that room work, though. You know, I definitely could make this castle better if I did more standard things along with like that Jimbo room or other things. I think this first room does do a good amount of sustained damage, even though I thought it was the weakest. Now that I'm watching these replays in succession, it seems like they always take a good amount of damage from this room. Even though that silence is just a little bit too late. Now that I say that, this guy's going to get through with only taking like 1,000 damage, which still isn't that bad. I mean, it's not amazing though, and he's actually right up to full once he uses the hit point globe. So I don't know. They all could use a little bit of work, probably, to tweak them a little bit better. This room so that it stands up to like someone who fights inside of the room itself, maybe with a Defendatron or something. Add a little bit more sustained damage to it, I guess, is what I would be going for. If there's some way that I could maybe reposition the archers with bear traps to actually force those to hit, that would even be a little bit better. Because it is designed to be a kill zone, but it's really only a kill zone if the person tries to run from it, which is kind of weird. It's a weird way of, you know, doing that. You know, it's forced to throw the person in, and they see all the stuff going on there, like, oh, let's run away from it, and then as soon as they try to run away, they get hit by a ton of damage. Jimbo gets hit, gets a kill, another one. It's a really good room. There is a small opening here where you can fit through, just because I couldn't fit it in with the trap generator there. Alright, so he ends up reviving. Let's see if he dies again, or if he gets through. This is probably going to be the last replay. I might do another replay day if I do end up tweaking this castle a little bit more, and it starts working out a bit better. We'll see. So he actually got away from the... Oh, that actually worked. That's the first time that it actually worked. So he did get snared. The first time, let's pause this replay for a second. The first time that he got thrown, he actually avoided the first set of bear traps for some reason. He like hugged the side of the barricade and he got away with not getting hit by them, but I think he did get snared, and then he got thrown back into it all, and he tried going forward and got stuck onto the stuck on the bear trap. And that's exactly how I was imagining it. Is if these guys were able to shoot just a little bit faster, these Stairmasters, that's how it should work every single time. But unfortunately, when they get stunned, they're still able to get away from it for at least a little bit of time, and then they get thrown back in. And I was hoping when they got thrown back in, that would be enough for them to have to run through those eyeballs. They'd get like stuck in the middle of the eye line, and somehow they would take the damage from it. With archers, it's harder to make it work because of the block chance, but with mages, it's not that big of a deal. And you could see how it's supposed to work right there. He ended up dying to it. So that's kind of how I was imagining it would work, and that's how I tried to set it up to work. But it's really hard to make this work the way I designed it, because people all react to it differently. So it's kind of difficult. It's hard to force things on the attackers because of stun immunity and because of control resistance, and how you don't know how much gear people are going to have when they come into your castle. When stun immunity and control resistance weren't a thing, it was a lot easier to like force damage on them and to know exactly how they're going to react, because you could force them to be in a certain area. But it's hard to gauge how far springboard traps are going to throw them, how long they're going to be stunned, and stuff like that. But that's the castle. It's pretty good. It works. You know, it does its job. Obviously, it could be better. And I think maybe Barricades would work better in a sustained damage type scenario, where you force them to fight in groups like this, and you force them to fight in like another group and another group and another group, and all of them have a chance of dealing, you know, a hit point pot worth of damage, and then by the end, when they get to the boss room, they have no pots left and they end up just dying. Whereas kill zones like this, it's either they kill you or they really don't do all that much damage. As you could see in some of those, like the last replay we watched, this hardly did any damage, whereas in other replays it forced them to use a potion almost fully. I don't know. I don't know if there's something I could do with this. I wonder if I put this hunger bot, if I like switched its spot with one of these archers, if maybe the archer would, like, they get thrown, and they get thrown in like this general area, and there's bear traps on this side of them. I wonder if I can get bear traps on this side of them as well, and then there'd be like one over here, so they'd have like this U of bear traps. Or I could just take this out, and maybe I can make like a circle around them of bear traps, so no matter where they go, they'll get stunned. But then they won't have the snare and then the bear traps. The smelly warriors might not hit. I definitely need to rotate this guy and then revalidate with him rotated one square, so that they can't get out of the that with like a spiral shot ability. I definitely need to do that. But that's gonna be the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you come up with any ways of improving these, you can definitely let me know. I'll check out your castle, or you can submit to viewer castles and I'll do it, as a video. Either way, whatever you want. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.